Welcome to Your Intellectual Property Matters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Intellectual Property Matters with Nolte Lackenbach Siegel. NLS has been protecting intellectual property for more than a century, helping businesses of all sizes safeguard their brands, innovations, and creative assets. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today I'm joined by Peter Hoppenfeld of Counsel to NLS. Peter works closely with marketers, entrepreneurs, authors, and digital brands on advertising, marketing strategy, and compliance issues that affect growth and revenue. In this episode, we're talking about influencer and review compliance, including the FTC's increased scrutiny of fake reviews, undisclosed testimonials, and the penalties businesses now face. A lot of crackdowns happening, it seems like. Peter, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. Nice to see you too.
Let's get right into it. The FTC has made fake reviews and undisclosed endorsements a major enforcement priority. What's changed recently that businesses out there should understand?
So I'll take a step back and say I don't think they've made a new enforcement priority. I'd say that they're catching up with the technology and they're catching up with the marketplace, which is par for the course for regulatory agencies. So the FTC, their role is this paternalistic role to protect consumers from their worst impulses. And marketers are around to try to get consumers to click, buy, or act against their best influences and be convinced that a product, service, or content is worth their while. Historically, when we're talking about Madison Avenue, it's different than we're talking about, about the digital economy. So we're talking about very personalized communications by marketers to consumers. The initial foray into the area of endorsements or testimonials, meaning the use of a user of a product or a celebrity, or now the phrase influencer, which didn't exist 7 or 8 years ago.
Exactly.
We can convince people that a product is worthwhile was first handled or attempted to be handled by the FTC around 12 years ago. And that was the change in the Federal Trade Commission's testimonial rule. Testimonial, I used X, Y, and Z, and I loved it. I took this supplement and I used this program and I lost 10 pounds. I flipped 3 houses. I lost 3 inches. I made X dollars, okay?
I got rich quick.
Which is the bread and butter of marketing messaging. There's nothing better than social proof. And that's the theme, I think, of our entire time together today. Social proof sells. So back in the day, if you remember the phrase, results not typical, yours may vary, you'd see those all the time. And that was what was called the safe harbor. You'd see an infomercial late at night, dating ourselves. And a story would be told about this great success story, results not typical, yours may vary. And that was enough. Except marketers, expanded it. As I like to say, marketers try to push a consumer's button to buy, to look, whatever. But when marketers start banging the crap out of the button, that's when regulators step in. So there were abuses in the use of testimonials. Many of them weren't real, were overstating it, were not typical, was so not typical that the FTC had to step in and say, wait a second. This is getting out of control. The public's being misleaded. We need to protect them against themselves. So the rule changed around 12 years ago. And it's basically changed by saying that's not a safe harbor anymore. If you're going to tell a story that somebody made $10,000 in 30 days or lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks, you need to be able to tell the public what the typical result is. Now, that's a big step. What's the typical result of the typical customer for that product, for that service, for that thing? So at the time, marketers started scurrying. There were certain niches this was an easy thing to comply with. Or Weight Watchers, a Jenny Craig. You weigh in, they know how much weight you lost, and if you looked at the ads, it'd say the typical result is X. Now, your real estate training companies, your financial newsletters, trading platforms, real estate seminar companies, what are they supposed to say? How to, build a business, and they're talking about their success stories. Many of them at the time would say, our typical result is people do nothing. And they would thought that was great. And I kept saying, well, that just means that your product is worth nothing. So let's rethink this. So as part of the compliance of that change, I had many of my clients do surveys. And so that they had substantiation and say, and do regular surveys asking questions about, did you use the product? For how long? What did you do? What your results? And have those disclosures ready. What was interesting as an aside, that some of the most interesting data that came from those surveys were really quality assurance questions like, would you recommend this to your friends and family? And guess what? That kind of information is more powerful than I made $10,000 in 6 weeks, because most people don't believe that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, hold on though. What is that? There is a rating system out there in the marketplace that's essential. It's called the something scale, where it is literally that, would you recommend this to a friend or family? And like companies today use that as the gold standard of quality.
The soft underbelly of direct response marketing, digital marketers, are neither here nor there. Many are opportunists.
Yeah.
They're with the analytics available on the social media platforms, marketing campaigns are being A/B testing is happening instantaneously, where in the past it would take months. So messaging is being changed so quickly that the rules almost are outdated before they even get implemented. The floor is established, have substantiation for the testimonials you're using, show typicality. But it was typicality for that program. So now I'm a marketer selling a new program. Well, I want to use those other testimonials, which was happening, which was against the law. So there's been this ongoing push-pull of marketers trying to bend the rules to be able to make sales. It's like, well, how? I work with a lot of marketers. A lot of them use formulaic marketing. There are formulas and things that work, and everybody's a copycat, particularly with digital and internet marketing, because it's so quick to market. So if something is working, what happens more often than not is the guy who figured out this formula to get sales all of a sudden becomes a how-to guru to teach other people how to use the same strategy. And then everybody's doing the same thing. A part and parcel of that is social proof. Social proof works. Okay, well, social proof works, and then now you start adding the next bit of, the internet happened and that was wonderful. And then comes the onslaught of social media, which changes the equation completely. Remember, when Facebook launched, there were no ads.
Right.
And then who would have thought you would have TikTok or Instagram? Okay. Legislators, if you ever watched a congressional hearing, they're still using BlackBerries.
Yeah, no, they have no idea.
I mean, they're the most technologically ignorant folks in the planet. And they're supposed to be legislating to help a consumer in a digital age. Well, so recently, rather than saying they were cracking down on bad reviews, which was the lead of the messaging, they're really catching up technologically by actually dealing with how you make a disclosure that a message is an endorsement or a review, because or that some copy that you read isn't a news article, but rather what's called an advertorial.
Yeah, or paid ad,
Right.
So
well, and paid ad, Sean, no offense, could be buried and look exactly like it was editorial from a online
for sure.
publication.
For sure.
So that's part of the other thing. We want, the FTC was looking to make sure that the public understood that what they were reading, what they were seeing was paid for, or the message that they're hearing, is it honestly the person's opinion, or was it colored or biased because they got paid? Okay, even to the point of getting a free sample. The feeling is the public should know that if this person is endorsing the product, that even the fact that they got it for free could be a factor that they like it. Okay. And then, of course, as the technology changes, the push-pull of trying to push the outer limits also increased. So you have fake review sites. So You have people using 5 stars when that was just a graphic designer throwing 5 stars. Or you have influencers with followers who now become a valuable commodity, even if they don't have a gazillion people. They have a loyal audience. That's a valuable person to a brand trying to get eyeballs to click, buy, or otherwise look. Okay. So the public needs to know, is that person I follow every day because they give me interesting thoughts, endorsing or talking about this product because they were paid? Because that might affect my decision. Or it should, or I should at least evaluate it that way. So that's a lot of what's been going on. Well, why was the headline cracking down on fake review sites? Because marketers were creating fake review sites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's certainly been part of the cultural conversation for at least a year or two in terms of like
Absolutely.
bots and, all this fake, fake reviews and people buying followers, like that whole, everything that goes on in the digital world.
Exactly. And the other
Yeah.
thing was, censoring negative reviews, or, having review sites where they were really advertising pages of companies were buying the number one spot, for example,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
which was happening a lot.
yeah. So like businesses out there now, like what, you're talking about these reviews, these testimonials, what types now what are considered fake under the FTC's new,
So it's actually not that hard. If the person really had no connection to the product and is touting its benefits purely by being paid and did no evaluation, it's it's a fake review. If it's purely an actor, it is what it is. Now, the other element is the motivation for the review or the testimonial. And testimonials tend to be under the guise of users giving their experience to be used as in advertising. Okay. Um, Reviews tend to be more so, you know, when you see them on a product page or a legitimate review site, where people are rating something. The hybrid is the digital social media influencer, and there's power in followers. I repeat, there's power in followers. I work with a lot of authors through the years, and right now, publishers are only looking for authors. Publishers always were only looking for authors who could sell books, because publishers don't sell books. But so if you were going to go to try to talk to a literary agent, the first question is, how large is your platform and how many followers do you have? And similarly, there are a lot of very normal folks with interesting backgrounds, or celebrities, or just interesting people who have created a niche, and they may have 10,000 followers, who have a lot of clout as marketers, because brands are finding that it's that connection between the influencer and its audience that's very powerful. And it's almost sometimes more effective to have a person with 10,000 rabid fans who are waiting every day to hear from them than to have somebody with 10 million people who may be, just not, pay attention once in a while.
well, that's one of the upsides of the digital realm now, as a content creator, you can potentially make a living with a few thousand rabid fans, like you said.
Exactly. And
And
the
bigger
countervailing
companies can
side
leverage
is
that.
the FTC, the FTC is looking at the 70% of the audience who doesn't realize that. That doesn't realize that by that YouTube channel is really monetizing by the number of viewers, and the ads are showing up as part of a system because there are eyeballs. So the FTC is looking to protect the average Joe or Jane from their own worst impulses, to make sure they understand why they're seeing what they're seeing and what it is. Is it real? We can talk AI later, but is it real? Is it a real opinion about a product? Which is why, for example, we could, the other element of this is native advertising, things that look like news that are not. And like the major news sites particularly separate those, and it's very clear that everything below the line are advertisements.
Hmm.
Where it gets dicey are the longer form ones that look like news articles, which are really totally sales pages.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.